So, without further ado, I'm going to kind of kick it off to you and love to see your thoughts there.
Yeah, awesome. Totally appreciate it and appreciate y'all having me. And for those of you who are new to me, welcome. I'm happy to be in front of you here. If you're new to Cience, please get to know them better. They're an amazing company that I've gotten to know a whole lot more over the last few months. And just they got a lot of awesome stuff going on over there. So definitely get in touch with and get in tune with some of the things they're doing. I think in a landscape that has a lot of really bad outbound, I think it's refreshing to see a company like Cience take a different approach and actually a healthy approach to make the emails that hit people's inbox and the cold calls they get something that is actually an email you might look forward to and not immediately be like, who sent this? Why would they ever talk to me about this? So let's say you get that meeting, right? And then what do you actually do when it comes time to have the meeting, whether it's your first meeting or your second meeting? Today, we're going to go through all of that in this workshop, Demo Calls That Don't Suck. So let me just queue up my screen here. All right, so let me toss. I got to make sure I can get this Zoom thing set up properly. We're going to put this on full screen. Or bigger screen, I should say. All right. Thumbs up. You got my screen? Perfect. Okay. And I just want to make sure if you don't now see like a random like blocking over the left corner, do you? Okay. The whole slide is visible.
No blocks.
Okay, perfect. So quick run of show here, or just housekeeping item here. If you have a question, please use the Q&A feature of the Zoom webinar. That way we can it doesn't get lost in the scroll. And so we can make sure we address it. If you just want to chat, of course, chat throughout, use the chat and we'll try and be active. I'll have some questions for you during this as well. So let's go ahead and dive right in. This is Demo Calls That Don't Suck with me, RajNATION from Startup Hypeman, in partnership with the team at Cience, Michael and Eric. So I want to just quickly, right off the bat, let's talk about why do most demos suck? Well, the challenge is that most demos are way too product oriented. They don't deliver a unique and compelling message, and the expectations are mismanaged, so therefore they lack direction. And that is not a place that you want to be in at the end of the day, because when that happens, what happens next? It makes buyers obsess over features and price. Hey, our competitor, or your competitor offers this extra feature and they also charge 25% less. How come your product is so expensive, right? That's an actual quote from a buyer that we've heard on a call before at one of our clients. Or you might have it where they actually forget who you are. So one of my clients, the head of sales at their company, he was actually looking to buy software for his team. And I sent him a company. I was just like, hey, I'm on their newsletter. It seems like they might be what you're looking for. Maybe you want to talk to them. And then a week later, he told me, man, I was on 6 or 7 demos as the buyer. And he was like, what was that one company's name again? The company that I referred to him, he forgot their name. That's how much they blended in and how poor their demo was. And on top of that, it could even lead your buyers to opting for do nothing and choosing the status quo instead, right? Where you'll get that email. Thanks for speaking with us the other week. We're going to table this for now. Some other priorities have come up. We'll reach out when timing is better. And in the chat, if you could just, if these things have happened to you before, like say in the chat, like with, one of those words or phrases to let us know. And then you might also get it where they just ghost you entirely. You feel like you have a good call and then they say they'll follow up. And then you send an email a week later. Hey, just checking in. Have you had a chance to speak with your team about this yet? And then 2 weeks later, they're like, you send another email. Hey, haven't heard back yet. Have you had a chance to surf this with your team? And then 3 weeks later, just checking in once again. We're ready on our end. Any movement on your side, right? And then you never hear back from them. And Kevin's saying in the chat, the passive thanks but no thanks is the worst. We like it, but it's just a matter of timing, right? These are all, in most cases, these are the challenge here is not enough value was presented, right? And if this is what's happening, like that's not good, right? Because your demo at the end of the day shouldn't turn away buyers or make them feel like they are settling. Instead, your demo should be an experience that inspires them. It should turn them into champions and evangelists of your brand. Champions and evangelists of your brand. So right out of the gate, I want you to reframe how you're thinking about these. Reframe from product demo or demo call to brand experience. And if you are inviting them for a Zoom meeting, for a Google Meet, for a Microsoft Teams meeting with you, and you reframe, you think about, hey, I'm inviting them to experience our brand. How might that change how you approach things? And I'll ask you, if the option was turning away buyers and making them feel like they're settling versus creating a brand experience that turns them into a champion, which would you rather have? All right. I, of course, am of the opinion of the experience in creating champions and evangelists, and I hope you are as well. And I want to tell you just for a moment why I feel so strongly about that, and just give you a little bit of a window into my personal background for those of you who have not been on a Startup Hypeman workshop before. My whole, ethos that I bring to my company, but also, my life itself, is a deep-rooted belief in the power of having a voice. I believe everyone deserves a voice. Everyone deserves to express themselves. And that's what fuels my personal and professional and creative pursuits. So what I'm bringing to you today is a combination of being a hip hop artist, a yoga instructor, a professional ring announcer for MMA and combat sports, as well as the founder and chief pitch artist of Startup Hypeman. So as I look at how we improve the demo call process and the overall sales landscape, I come to you with a background that just like merges this hybrid of sales and marketing and branding and entertainment, right? And performance. Because I think all those things are valuable as we try to, as we try to sell our products and get the right buyers. Here's a handful of places that I've been in before. If you like TED Talks, I recommend you check mine out. It's like 7 or 8 years old at this point, but it was a TED Talk on vulnerability. But I did that before Brene Brown made vulnerability cool. At least to my knowledge, her talk hadn't come out yet when I did mine. So check it out if you want. You can just search my name in TEDx. So let's talk about, your demo calls. Okay. And I want to present today's information by just kind of telling a story and using a use case. And I want to introduce you all to Peter. Okay. Peter is the CEO of a e-commerce software company, an e-commerce SaaS company called Searchspring. And he's an industry veteran for 2 decades at this point. And I actually cold emailed him a year and a half ago or so. And, he replied to that email and we talked and we met and everything. And he told me selling through demos is horrible. We're always caught in a feature battle. In the chat, just use capital letter FB if you've ever felt like you're caught in a feature battle with your competitors or when you're talking to your buyers. Cool. We're getting people who are resonating with that. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what, the CEO of this company was like, I look at my sales team and demos are horrible. We're always caught in this feature battle. And he was kind of like convinced that was just the way, right? That's just something you had to deal with. And I was like, no, I think we can change this. And so he was like, all right, well, and I think, honestly, I think because he kind of saw that belief that I had in the power of a voice, he was like, okay, I'm going to hand over the reins to you to help us figure this out. So I want to share you their story today as we talk through these demo techniques and the different things that they implemented. And what we did was we basically installed this process that I call your story stack. And I'm showing this to you to show you how the idea of the demo call kind of fits in overall. Think of your story stack as your mixtape, right? And these are the different tracks on your company's mixtape and that you're trying to play your company, your brand sound loud and proud. All right. So part of this, you'll see a couple of these elements you'll see come up in the overall demo system now. Here was Searchspring's situation. right? Because they had their sales intelligence, their call recording software. We looked at the data. Their reps had good talk to listen ratios. Their reps were asking a healthy volume of questions. They knew the software inside and out. Like product knowledge is not an issue here. The customers have even given them a 4.9 out of 5 on G2. Right? So logic says this should be a pretty easy sale. But they were still consistently missing quota. They were losing deals on price, relying on discounts, and getting piecemealed by their customers. What I mean by that last point is write suite, SUITE, in the chat if this applies to you. For those of you who sell a product that actually has like multiple parts to it, where a customer could buy the whole thing, or they could just buy like a couple components of it. That's Searchspring situation where they have like a multi-product suite, and you don't have to buy the whole thing, even though it's probably great if you do. So if that applies to you, just put a capital letter S or write suite in the chat if you sell a product that they can purchase portions of or products of within an overall product suite. So this was this was the challenge they were facing. And according to the data, they were following the rules as you saw. But here's the thing. You can have the right talk ratio, but still talk about the wrong things. You can have the right number of questions, but still not get quality responses. And you can have a highly rated product, but that does not mean it's going to sell itself. And that was kind of where they were stuck, because the salespeople, the AEs, they had a ton of questions. When I first met with them, this is what they were saying. They were like, how do I deal with status quo, delaying or killing deals? How do I stay top of mind between calls? How do I frame pricing without having to discount right away? How can I get other stakeholders on board, right? All these things. These are the different questions that they had. Michael, I'm curious here if you can chime in leading sales teams in the past. Are these questions that you've kind of heard your team bring to the surface before?
Yeah, no, 100%. I've heard all these questions here, and a lot of them just really looking and feeling through on any. Have always been the go-to.
Yeah, it's I think it's something that is corroborated by a lot of salespeople, just like some of these things the questions that plague us, right? So how do we actually, get there? Because it's like, these are the questions that the people who are boots on the ground have. And in Searchspring's case, it was hard for leadership to provide the right support, right? So you have the CEO, Peter, he was busy being the CEO, and the head of sales is focused on managing pipeline. And then you have marketing, who's not in tune with the day-to-day of the buyers. And a lot of organizations are structured like this, where it's just hard to figure it out because everyone's tied up with their own thing. So let's talk today about the system that you need to put in place, and the system that that Searchspring was able to do. So here's what we're covering today within that, right? This is the overall demo system that you all need to really strongly consider installing at your companies. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about the mindset you need to have. Then we're going to cover the messaging, followed by call flow, and ultimately coaching and accountability for repeatable, scalable demo call success. And I've got a bonus for you at the end as well, because it wouldn't be a workshop or a webinar if we didn't dangle a carrot at the end. So stick around until we get there. So if we feel good here about moving forward into the mindset, let's just do a little hip hop call and response here. If you're ready to proceed, I'm going to say, can I kick it? And if that's cool, you just need to type into the chat, yes, you can. And we're going to, hopefully there won't be too much of a delay between me saying it and you typing it. All right. Can I kick it, everyone? You just got to let me know, yes, you can, in that chat. Oh, no, I don't think I can kick it.
They can.
Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. We're good. It was like that slight delay, and then it all came in. All right. Sweet. All right. So we're going to kick it old school today. So let's start with the mindset. All right. If you are a salesperson, like you're the account executive yourself, I want you to stop thinking like a salesperson or account executive. If you are in executive leadership, I want you to stop thinking like an executive. Okay. Overall, stop thinking like an executive. Why? because it creates really, really boring demo calls. I always say this with the companies that we work with. I tell them this, and I apply it to myself as well. Adopt this. Nobody puts baby in the corner browser tab. Okay. Be more interesting than the thing that someone is putting in a background window while they actually do something else. You've got to be at the forefront for them and with them. And I'm telling you, it's really easy in a multi-monitor setup for them to put you on their side monitor while they actually respond to some Slack messages or emails. And then they, give you the courtesy nods along the way. And then and to break that cycle, all you got to do is just like say their name and ask a question. And then if they're like, and then you'll know that they're clearly not paying attention, right? Nobody puts baby in the corner browser tab. I want you to have that in your gut moving forward. So stop thinking like an executive and instead think like an entertainer. And what that means is become audience focused. The best entertainers, their number one priority is, how do I make this a great experience for my audience? How do I get them buzzing about something? How do I create an energy and an emotion? How do I make that emotional connection with them, right? So you know what doesn't happen when you see your favorite musician take the stage? They don't do this. They don't go, how's everyone doing tonight? Yeah. Okay, great. So check it out. Tonight, we're going to play every song on every album we've ever come out with. That's 14 songs per album, 9 albums in total. We don't just want to play the albums. We also want to play for you some of the stuff we've been working on in the garage as well recently, and give you an idea of the next 10 songs on our overall roadmap as a band. Would you like that? It'll take about 19 hours to get through. Is that okay with everyone? All right. Even the most diehard, unless it's like a jam band, maybe, but the most diehard fans will be like, what? No, I have to get home and feed my family. Just play the hits already. Right. And that's what a lot of demo calls lack, is they don't play the hits. They give you a button by button tour of every possible thing. And they even tell you what's coming up on the product roadmap, down the road. So, and that's really being really product focused, right? And product obsessed. So you got to drop the idea of product obsession and instead think like an entertainer and become audience focused. This graphic on the next slide, I think is a really just great way to depict it. I didn't create it. It's from useronboard.com. It's about 8 years old at this point, but you are selling Big Mario on fire, shooting fireballs, killing bad guys, stomping over Koopas, right? That's what you're selling. You're not selling the flower. You're selling Mario being able to kill bad guys. So for your customers, how can you sell to them being Mario killing bad guys in their world? Okay. When you are audience focused, this is not, and then you're not running a product demo, right? You're running a brand experience. So make sure you think like an entertainer. Remember, nobody puts baby in the corner browser tab. That's the mindset. So it starts there. Once you have the mindset in place, then you can work on the messaging. And I want to just offer this up here as a rhetorical question to everybody. How do you answer the question? So am I back?
We go.
Oh my God. Of course that happened.
Test that mic. But hey, we
It was
have
a great cliffhanger though.
We have to work through these on demos too.
Exactly.
This is a sample, folks, of what happens when you have a demo and internet. So that of kind of what I've done for mindset and getting it in there, and the imagery that I put into my head when I'm helping a client. Yeah, when I'm going in there, I literally in my head am on the same side of a table. I close my eyes. I take 15 seconds to just see myself and see this person on the same side of the table and think through, where are they going? What do they want? How can I support them in getting there? right? And your messaging will naturally, hopefully, flow into some of that when we are in the world, a visual world of that mindset of like, I'm a Sherpa, right? I'm a Sherpa helping
Ooh.
individuals get to this point. And I think that imagery is important to develop that mindset. And Raj, I don't know, your thoughts, and how does that carry over into some of this messaging that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, that's how you become a trusted advisor with them, right? And that's how you, like you said, you put yourself on the same team as them, as opposed to, this like constant friction battle that's going on for weeks sometimes. So a great way is to apply that is in actually how you message to them too. So that cliffhanger that I left everyone on, which I don't know, maybe it was intentional. Who knows? You'll never find out. So how do you answer what does your company do? And most companies will say something like this. We're an award-winning AI-powered platform specializing in load delivery throughout the entire product lifecycle. We work with top brands across multiple industries with an average 50% increase in delivery and are backed by the same investors who funded Pinterest, Peloton, and PuppyLingo. Like Duolingo, but for puppies. And I wish that was an actual app, but it's not. Because I think we could all learn to speak what our dogs speak, right? That is like a hypothetical example of what so many people sound like when they talk about what their company does.
It's a lot
and
of
I need you
to me. I'm hearing
yeah,
in that.
of course. It's so much me. Award-winning, AI-powered platform, buzzwordy, right? We specialize in this. We've worked with these brands, right? It's all about me, and it's all cramming in these hot take buzzwords. And it's basically saying, look at me. No, look at me. No, really, please look at me.
And this is the thing that leads to forgetting who that demo was from, because so many demos out there in market are so centric about capturing, this is the feature that you need to focus on, and I'm doing this feature a very unique way, and it's special because no one does it this way. So how do we overcome this?
Yeah. So I want to share with you, everybody, the elevator pitch formula to adopt. And I'll tell you, I've got an entire separate workshop called How to Not Suck at Your Elevator Pitch, which is literally a deep dive onto just this next slide that I'm going to show you. So it is quite possibly the simplest yet most deadly effective messaging formula you could possibly ever come across. And when I developed this a few years ago, it was taking a lot of these different things into account to say, how do we connect with our audience in the best way possible? Okay, so that formula is the ¿Qué pasa elevator pitch formula. For those of you who know any sort of Spanish, and I know some of you on this call, based on where you live, you do know Spanish. The ¿Qué pasa in Spanish means what's up or what's happening. And when you talk about your company, you need to just tell people what's up. PASA, problem, approach, solution, action. Problem, approach, solution, action. Problem, approach, solution, action. And I'm telling you this not just because this is like the upfront description you'll give about your company, and I'll show you in a second when we get to call flow how this slots perfectly into a demo, but it also lays the foundation for all of your messaging, right? It is what becomes the basis for your company's pitch deck even. And you'll also see in a few moments that's a critical piece of this entire demo system, right? So this ¿Qué pasa formula is more than just a soundbite. It is the bedrock of your messaging in your sales process. So from there, that is the messaging. Now let's move into part 3, which is the call flow. Go ahead and put call flow in the chat if you're ready for that. And for those of you asking if you're going to get the recording, yeah, afterwards we'll send the recording out to everyone, just so you know. All right, call flow. Y'all are ready. Let's do this. So let's talk about the actual structure of the call itself. Okay. First, I want to talk about, demos that suck. Here's what the call flow will look like. You'll open with what I call 100-level discovery. Very, very like base discovery questions, like what has you interested in us? Questions that are all about like, hey, why do you want this software? It'll then be followed by a boring demo. Okay, let me show you the software now. And then you have inconclusive next steps at the end where you're like, okay, great. So what are your next steps from here? And this will happen in about a 30-minute call that gets scheduled. But you know what? The prospect runs 5 minutes late. And they also have a meeting right afterwards. So by minute 20, their mind is in another place. And you get to minute 28, 29, and they're like, yeah, just send all me this in an email. And you're like, okay, great, will do. And that's kind of where it lays out. And then you're stuck to try to communicate things through email, right? That's not the process that you want to have. So I'm going to show you now the call flow for repeatable, scalable, badass demos. Repeatable, you as a rep, if you're a rep on this right now, you as a rep can do this over and over again. Scalable, it can be scaled across a sales team and as your company adds more people. Badass, well, because you want to be a badass, right? I want to be a badass. So here's the step-by-step process. And then after this, I'll go into each step piece by piece. So what you want to start with, and actually, sorry, I don't have it as a bullet point on this, but I want to just build some baseline rapport up front. Actually, Eric and Michael, I'm curious to hear your take on this. I personally hate talking about the weather. It's warm where you are, it's cold where I am, sometimes vice versa. We all chose to live where we live. I feel like talking about the weather is like bottom 5 lowest forms of human communication.
I always joke that the third ring in hell is reserved for San Diegans who complain about the weather.
I like that. Michael, are you on team weather or are you on like, don't talk about the weather?
I don't know. I'm indifferent. I feel it out. I kind of want to just throw out something where I see the lean in. Weather does not lean in very often, but you got to start somewhere. So until you build that up, weather's the easy go-to. And I think as salespeople develop, they kind of get more creative to work outside.
It's a preference thing. If any of you on this happen to sell to me at any point, I'm telling you right now, don't ask me what the weather's like here. And not because it's always bad weather. I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, why do you care?
I would say this, whatever it is, whether it's weather or some other topic, just make it interesting and tell a really good story around why you're bringing it up. Make it interesting.
I always joke, I'm like, I would rather tell you about my last doctor visit than tell you about the weather.
All right, you tell me about the weather. I'm just joking.
All right, so build some good rapport up front. Also try to avoid like, how's the pandemic been, right? I don't know, it's been crappy for everyone. I think what's great is if you can point out if someone has like an interesting background, like is there like a guitar in the background? Oh, do you play? Right, get them to talk, and then they're talking about their passion for a couple minutes. They're going to be all smiles. Yeah,
I have a really good idea because I assume our listeners here do their homework. That's why they're in this webinar and they're doing their homework on their prospects before. But I actually like to project things that I'm really interested in learning about them at the very beginning, right? And that's a good segue. Creates that warm relationship. I would say something to the effect of like, hey, I hope in this call like you're doing artificial intelligence very uniquely, and I don't see people looking at that niche and that approach. Maybe not right now, but some point later could we dive into that? And I just project to them, and that really gets them to lean in a little bit and gives that insight of like, well, I'm going to have to engage, and so now these stages in between me and that who knows when engagement occurs are going to be relevant. And that's a tip that I like to
Yeah, I like that approach a lot. That's really good. I haven't considered that before. I like that. I'm going to take notes on that. Thank you. Okay, so let's assume you've built some baseline rapport. Here's the step-by-step call flow. You want to start by setting a mutual agenda for the call and potentially the overall process. Then you follow that with an impactful point of view statement. Your point of view statement then tees up what I call 300 level discovery or advanced discovery. After you've done that discovery, you then deliver your elevator pitch and the pitch deck. You then employ what I call the reverse demo technique. This is where you actually do your software, your product demo, but you do what I call the reverse demo technique. I'll explain that. And then you close with collaborative next steps. All right, I'll explain all these things in detail here. But I also want you to change, if you're doing a 30-minute call block right now, I want you to make it a 40 to 45-minute call block. Here's why. A 30-minute call block, as we pointed out earlier, person's probably running 3 to 5 minutes late, and oftentimes is scheduled back to back. So you really only have like maybe 24 minutes in a 30-minute call, potentially less. In a 40 to 45-minute call block, if they run a couple minutes late, you're fine. The other thing, almost no one starts a new meeting at 2:41 p.m. or 2:46 p.m. So you won't get scheduled back to back, both on your side and on their, like you won't have to deal with, jumping to another demo yourself right away. But more importantly for them, they aren't going to be like rushing to get out of that meeting because they've got to jump to a meeting at 2:41 p.m. So it'll give you enough time to get through everything, and it'll allow them to have their attention on you the whole time. They're not going to get distracted as easily about what's happening after this meeting. And if you end on time, you're giving them 15 to 20 minutes back in their day before the next thing hits on their calendar. And if you run a little bit over time, you still have buffer before the next meeting might be on their calendar. So 40 to 45 minutes is a amazing sweet spot. And again, you actually have time to get through all the stuff that creates a quality call. So let's dive into each segment now. Starting
Raj,
with
real quick, before
yeah.
we jump into that though, I sometimes feel like the people that are, on the other side of that, the recipients of that are kind of like, why 45 minutes? Like I'm dipping my toe in here. And if you are getting that resistance from your prospects, I have a tip for you. Much like I mentioned earlier, projecting, if you get that resistance from your prospects, just give them that vision. Say, hey, in 40 to 45 minutes, we're going to be here. XYZ is going to occur. I have a plan here. There's a process designed here. And just that quick 15 seconds really wraps them up, really brings them back centered, really gets them engaged. So always just, hey, if we're going to be there in 40 minutes, this is what there looks like, and this is how it's meaningful for you. And now let's get started. And so just for those that need some, tips on getting clients really engaged from the start, that's a helpful one that I've used in the past.
Yeah, I like that. You're essentially collapsing what could take 2 meetings into 1 meeting, which I think everyone could deal with less meetings in their life. Not to say you won't have a follow-up meeting, but it'll be for an advancement of the deal, not having to finish what you couldn't get to.
100%. And I mean, if you know your competitor as well, you could say something to that effect. I would definitely say to the effect of like, hey, I understand this is a 40-minute meeting, but I'm quite excited because what you might cover with X, Y, and Z Acme Corp, we're actually going to just cover it in 40 minutes. It's going to take you, 2 hours. You're going to meet with a sales engineer, 15 different people. I don't need that. I can get us here faster and efficiently, and I have a plan for that. And I always end with, I have a plan for that, because it really draws their attention to trust what's happened.
Amazing. Okay, let's go into the agenda now. So there's a couple of questions in the Q&A. I will actually let me answer one of those right now. Asking for more time for someone might push a meeting out to a later date, right? Maybe. So that's a good question. But honestly, if people are interested, they understand time, like the value in spending quality time, right? And I'm not saying you might not have like a quick 15-minute qualification call like from the SDR. That's fine. I think even if you have that, you still schedule some solid time with them here. And especially once someone has given you a little bit of time, they're more likely to give you more time. So don't think this means you sacrifice the qualification call. I'm not saying that. I'm saying build on that now. The other question from Rob Sheehan, I'll get to
Mind
that.
if I take this
in just a
one
minute.
real
Yeah,
quick?
go ahead.
Here's the other question. I don't think the harm is actually doing that. I think the harm is what you do with that. So often, and our buyers have been in this stage where they're asked this question and no one ever takes that information and presents it back to them. They take that information and then they force them down this path and journey and they don't come back to that. And so a lot of people feel like that's something stolen from them, right? So every time that question, it triggers something. So I think we're trying to avoid a trigger. If you want to ask that question, just make sure you're going to actually incorporate it into your demo and into why it's being asked. So hopefully there's a nice tip for everyone.
So with the mutual agenda, so this is how you're going to kick off the call after you build that base rapport. Okay. The demos that suck skip agendas completely. What you'll find though is actually like those demos will dive right into discovery, and I think it's like putting a blindfold on your buyer and saying, "Oh, just trust me." So your agenda that you set up front establishes a common goal. You're creating an order of operations for your call that both parties agree to, and you're establishing a common goal, a North Star of sorts that you both know you're building towards, right? It's going to help keep the call on track as a result. And you're going to secure some initial buy-in, right? Hey, can we agree to how this call should run today? The other thing that's so amazing about doing the agenda up front is you're able to tease next steps at the very beginning. So perhaps everyone on this can relate to this. Do you ever feel like you're in that situation where you get to the end of the call and you're like, oh crap, how do I set up next steps now? A lot of the companies we've worked with and the reps that we've coached, like that's where they feel, that's where they're coming from, is like, oh, I don't know how to even like set up the next steps and what do I even say there? What you can do with an agenda at the very beginning is say, hey, here's how I see today going. Well, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. And then if we both feel like there's a fit at the end, typically next steps look like blank, right? So you just toss out at the very beginning, hey, here's what is going to happen after this call if we feel good by the end of this call. And then they agree, they say, yeah, that sounds good. So now you've gotten them to essentially agree to a next step if this call is successful. And you've taken out all the legwork of doing so at the end of the call, right? Yeah, Fred, right, the upfront contract. Yeah, it's that idea, right? You're securing an initial buy-in. So what you want to do when you set an agenda, like basically what you're doing with the agenda is essentially sharing this framework, but not in like a, hey, I'm going to do 300 level discovery, right? You're going to just be like, hey, I want to give you a quick overview about us, and then I want to use that to learn more about you, and then I'll share more about our company, right? So that's your mutual agenda up front. The framework I like to think about is I just call it GVG, give, get, give. Give them something, get from them, and then close by getting them something. Okay, so you set the agenda up front. The agenda then leads into your impactful point of view statement. Demos that suck do not have a point of view. And I really want you to think about this right now with the product you sell and the company you represent. What is your company's unique point of view? Perhaps you don't have one. And if you don't, that's something that leadership needs to get their heads together on and figure out. What is the point of view? Okay. So, and if you're a rep, I would say don't go off creating this on your own. There's got to be something that's aligned from leadership that everyone can be putting out there, so there's some market consistency. But essentially, your point of view is where you get, it's brief. It's 15, maybe 20 seconds, just a quick soundbite to convey your stance and belief system about the industry. Right? It's essentially where you're saying, hey, anyone who does things this way is doing it the wrong way, and we believe people should be doing it this way instead. But the key here is that it's not about product features. Like you're not talking about product here. It's a level above that. It's a vision that pushes down into product, but it pushes down into all functions of your business. So just like a quick example on that, like for Startup Hypeman, ours is some form of, hey, like and you heard it earlier, actually, we firmly believe that everyone deserves a voice. Specifically, companies who don't have a voice risk commoditization in the market because their customers will treat their product as an interchangeable part. But the companies who capture and own their voice, their customers recognize their unique qualities and magnetize to your brand, which allows you to lead your category and set the terms for everyone else. Right? Real quick, 15 seconds or so, gives you that point of view.
Rajiv, can I also contribute a little something here?
Please.
That point of view, I would lean on personas. If your organization has created personas, created visions of what the ideal buyer struggles with and their pain points, align your point of view with those pain points, because effectively what you're doing is, here's this point of view, and if you see features, they serve this point of view. And if you and I are aligned on this point of view, these features should mean something to you as well.
And what it does, and I showed you that whole call flow up front because each thing kind of like waterfalls into the next, right? So the agenda, then you're like, okay, well, let me just give you that quick overview I mentioned. So you say your point of view statement, and then you say, I just want you to keep this in the back of your mind because I've got some questions that I have because I'm really curious about your business. And I just want you to know that it's all coming from that place, okay? Because now what it does, it opens up the entire scope of possible questions you could ask, because you're telling them it all ladders back up to this belief system that we have, to this point of view that we have. Cynthia asked, prospect comes for seeing the features in case product demo. That is primary agenda for demo, right? I'm not sure what you're asking. So if you could just clarify that question in the chat, go ahead and take your time and write that, and I'll proceed and come back to what you asked there. So you get through the point of view statement and you use that to tee up your discovery. And this is where we have that advanced discovery. So the demos that suck do 100 level discovery. And what that means is they focus more only on why are you interested in oh, what has you interested in us today? And Rob, you asked that in the chat, during the Q&A, is that a problem? No, it's not a problem to ask what has you interested in us, but it's a problem if you only ask about why they're interested and not about what their actual pains are or problems are. The 100 level discovery also treats the issue as siloed within only the realm that the product exists in. And you'll find the salesperson will frequently interrupt the prospect from talking by bragging on their, the prospect will say something that your product solves, and then you'll jump in and be like, oh yeah, we actually have a thing for that. We have a solution for that. It's in our thing. I'm really excited to show you that later. And then because the discovery is so poor, it yields poor forecasting because you're not finding true timing drivers. Whereas with 300 level discovery, you seek to understand their pain within the context of overall company initiatives. So you're able to build a case where you're like, oh, okay, so it's this. Okay, so you're saying you have this big goal over here, and there's this wall in between. If we don't figure out this, you can't even get past that wall to get to this bigger goal, right? You learn about the overall company initiatives, not just the silo that your product lives within. It also encourages the buyer to qualify themselves, right? I kind of like that approach, at least the mental approach of you're almost disqualifying instead of qualifying. And when you prove that they're not disqualified, they are in fact qualified, right? So you're getting them to qualify themselves throughout the process. And you're, instead of interrupting, what you're going to do is aid with similar customer stories, similar conversations you've had with other customers who have those problems as well. But you're not going to use that as time to brag on your product. You're going to help make them feel better about or more secure in their situation and the fact that they have an issue by saying, yeah, that came up with so-and-so recently as well. It also helps position you as someone who's in the game. You know this, you've seen it and heard it before. And you're going to yield accurate forecasting by uncovering the true timing drivers that exist. So one example of 300 level question around timing, most calls that I review initially, the rep will say something like, okay, so what's your timeline for wanting to get something like this installed or launched? Right. And I think that only gives you a small piece of the puzzle or the overall picture. When it comes to timing, what's important to understand is that there are really two timelines at play. There's the timeline that got us here, and then the timeline that gets us there. So a great way to ask about timing is to say, hey, I'm just curious, how come we're having this conversation today? And we didn't have it 2 months ago, or we're not having it 2 months from now. Now that kind of a question is going to get them to tell you the story, the sequence of events leading up to this call today, right? Oh yeah, well, we have this big, new website redesign taking place, yada, 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 right? And then we have this other thing that's going to get installed on the site soon. So we got to make sure that we have that ready for the site launch. But you're also going to qualify that and say, and they say, so for all those reasons, like we're looking at like a January launch, and then you're going to say, okay, great. What happens if you don't go live by then? This is one of those ways where you get them to qualify what they just told you. What happens if you don't go live by then? And now they're going to tell you either, no, we absolutely have to for these reasons. So it's a real timing driver. Or they'll say something like, well, I mean, if we had to like push it to like February or March, it's not the biggest deal in the world. But now you know how to forecast appropriately, right? So initially when they said January, you might have put that into your CRM, but now maybe you can more realistically say February. From there, after you get through your discovery, you then deliver your elevator pitch and your pitch deck. You give them the overview, right? You say, okay, great, thanks for sharing all that. Let me just give you a better understanding of what we do here. And you deliver that K-PASA pitch. Most demos do not have a concise way to talk about their company. And they then use a bad capabilities deck, or they don't use any deck. I'm actually curious to hear from the room here. Are you on team slides or team no slides? Let us know in the chat. Slides or no slides in the chat. And Michael and Eric, I would love to get your take as well.
I'm in no slides, but I should be slides. I'll just tell you. The slides force the preparation, and they force like the mental flow of how you want to get through everything, that agenda you talk about. And so I like that it forces that and forces the reminder of that. But I feel like death by PowerPoint, like I hate that side of it as well. So
yeah. Yeah, so you don't want death by PowerPoint, but I'm here to tell you, because one of my specialties is building presentations. So obviously I'm of that opinion, but if it's a good presentation, you should be using a presentation. And the challenge is the companies who use slides, so many of them use a capabilities deck. I also have a whole nother workshop, everyone, called Sales Presentations That Don't Suck, which is just entirely, it's basically this slide here, but expanded into an entire workshop on how to actually build a deck slide for slide. Not going to go into that all today. But I just want you to know that like the capabilities deck is pointless. The capabilities deck where you have 5 slides that explain your product and show logos of your customers, pointless. Don't use that. But good slides really change the game. So first, again, you want to have that K-PASA pitch, but then your presentation is one that defines your category and makes a state of the industry commentary. So essentially, what you're doing in that presentation is teaching them about their own situation. You're able to craft a narrative to where they say to themselves by the end of it, huh, I never thought of it like that before. And when you have them in that mode, oh my God, like now, like they can't wait for you to show them to the promised land, right? It is it's a way of teaching them. If you teach them, people, they like learning, and then they're like, okay, this person has shown me something I didn't even realize about myself, and I live this day to day. It's also going to help unlock the full value chain of your offer. If you're in one of those situations where you have a product suite and they could just buy one component, this helps connect why buying the full thing makes a lot of sense. Okay. And again, I've got a whole nother presentation specifically on this topic that you can come check out another time.
And I like to create a bullet if I can, just on the slides. Tell a story, a lot of imagery.
Yeah.
Not a lot of bullets. Don't get them trying to read while you're speaking and communicating. Tell a story, use pauses to create drama, inflection points in your voice, tell a story. If you're going to do slides, it is a visual element to a story of entertainment, right? Being that, that entertainer that we talked about earlier.
Definitely. Lerjan, in the Q&A, you asked about point of view. Let me get through everything and then I'll come back and answer the question. I'm conscious of time here, so I'm gonna bang through these next few slides pretty quickly. Okay, The reverse demo technique. Demos that suck or do what I call the curious case of Benjamin's buttons. They literally go through a button by button walkthrough of every possible thing you could do with the software. And that's very, very feature heavy. And it takes, it's like 30 minutes of screen share hell. And it just makes the product look and feel complex. For a first pass, your buyer needs to feel like it's simple and intuitive. So what you want to do is a light walkthrough. You're going to intentionally leave things out because you want it to feel simple and intuitive and linear as well. And with the reverse technique, you work backwards from the end result. And this works especially well if you sell a product that has a back end like person and then a front end user. In those cases, make yourself the front end user and take them through the experience of being that user on the front end. And then to make it all happen on the back end, it's super simple. You just do this, this, and this. Right? And it's a quick explanation, right? This will take out like any of you who have a Jimmy John's in your state or wherever you live, Jimmy John's sandwich place, one of their options when you order a sandwich from them is TBO, take bread out, where like instead of getting the fat bread, they pull out like the chunks of bread, so it's a lighter carb option. This is your take bread out version of your demo, right? It's the low carb version of your software. Give them that. And then this is going to help make it feel simple and linear and prioritize and deliver value instead of features, because you're showing what it's like to be the user of that product, getting their problem solved, and then working back from there to say, and again, the setup is real simple, this, and this. Remember, I guess not remember because I haven't said it yet, but just note, if you're worried that, no, they need to see more, keep this in mind. You always have as a possible next step in your back pocket, a next call to set up a technical demo where their IT can join or whomever on their team can join, right? And the technical demo can be the deep walkthrough. That can be the heavy carb version, but low carb version to start.
Here's another really important thing to take note of, everyone. Dilution of value. Every feature you add, it dilutes the value of your core features. So if you have 2 or 3 core things, focus on those items, because if you're talking about your 5th or 6th or 7th button click, they're not going to discern which of those 6 has the most amount of value, and it dilutes the value of the overall product. So dilution of value is a really important thing to watch out for.
Totally. Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that. And I'll tell you, no one was ever like, oh, this admin dashboard is so sexy, I'm going to buy now, right? Let's get into the next part. And then we got a minute. I'm going to run a little bit over time. I hope that's okay with everybody. If you have to drop, this is recorded, but I hope you can stay. Collaborative next steps, okay? The demos that suck, expect the buyer to tell you your own process. Hey, what are next steps? You're literally asking them how your own sales process works. Don't do that. Instead, collaborate with them, because the challenge is you're giving away control, right? You're just leaving it to them to decide what should happen next. And it's also, you end up in situations where you as the seller take on all the responsibility, where you end up somehow in a situation where they have not even committed to a next meeting, but you've committed to checking with your software engineer about a specific question they had, sending them 3 case studies, sending them a recording of the meeting, and then this 3 other things that take you 30 minutes. And you don't even know if they're going to even respond to that email or not. So you want to have collaborative next steps, right? Remember at the very beginning, if you set the agenda, you teased out your next step. So you can say here, hey, so earlier we said, if it felt like a good fit, here's what it would happen next. I'm feeling like a good fit. Do you agree? Yeah. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and plan that out now. So you've already got it taken care of. And so now you've assumed control of the situation and you're able to pave the path for them moving forward. And then you could even divide out the responsibility. So it's like you set up that next meeting, okay, here's what I want you to do. I need you to do these 2 things and come to the meeting with this. I'm going to do these things on my side, right? So now it's like it's an equal responsibility situation. So now there's skin in the game on both sides. And that overall is the call flow process, right? That's what it is in full. Last few points I want to make: coaching and accountability. For those of you who are fans of basketball, you might remember about 20 years ago, Allen Iverson missed practice got some crap for it from the media. And then he came out in a press conference and said, how the hell can I make my teammates better by practice? He was wrong. It was a terrible press conference that he had. And I tell you, you have to have a coaching and accountability system in place to be able to do this on a repeatable basis, right? Because reps need more than just pipeline review meetings. They need real support, coaching, and feedback. Otherwise, I think it's like expecting a basketball team to win every game without ever showing up for a practice. So, the system that we'll institute at companies is we'll get a call recording software plugged in if they don't already have one. We'll leave call notes on reps' calls, give them time for one-on-one feedback sessions, and then do what we call a team game film review, where we all watch a call together and do like a live feedback session and get kind of like input from several people at once. That in total is the overall system for demos that don't suck: mindset, messaging, call flow, coaching, and accountability. And again, you got to have these 4 parts of this system all working and calibrated together. Because if you don't have the right mindset, your messaging is going to be off. And if your messaging is off, your call flow doesn't really matter that much. I've even had companies tell me before, like, hey, I wish we would have realized earlier it's not just a demo problem. It's actually also a messaging problem. And you got to have, like, habits aren't going to stick if you don't have some accountability in place over and over again. This is the system that makes your product demo a brand experience. Again, turning them into a champion who evangelizes your cause, positioning you as a category leader. And when your demo call does not suck, what kind of results can you expect? Well, you could be like Brittany here, the senior enterprise AE at Blueboard, who was like, hey, did those things. And then my SDR, who was shadowing my call, said that was one of the top 10 demos I've ever seen. Or you could be like William at Engagedly, who just closed out the quarter at 140% to goal for mid-market audience. And what about Peter and Searchspring? Because remember, that's what this was all about at the beginning, right? They had the issues. They said the demos were horrible. We're always caught in a feature battle. Well, this system is what we implemented. And here are some of the results. You had Steven, who did 105%, 195%, and 200% of quota across a 3-month stretch. Or Deontay, who transitioned from an SDR and in his 2nd month did 149% of quota. Or Derek, who doubled his sales from Q1 and hit over 120%. And Peter himself, this part I love, he ate his own words, literally, because he bet his team. The board of directors set a really high quota, and he said, I'm going to bet you all can't hit this, but if you do, I will take a pie to the face. And what happened? Quarter ended, they hit their quota by a lot, and the VP of sales put a big whipped cream pie or whatever it was, a big pie to the face to Peter, and she got in there, grabbing him by the neck to make sure he couldn't pull away. So I want you all to be able to get to a point where you're taking pies to the face because you're so successful yourself or your teams are so successful. And that is what it's been awesome to see, the growth with Searchspring with implementing this kind of a system, and it just keeps getting better for them too.
Awesome.
Final things I want to say here is just, I will send you one of the first part of the system was the mutual agenda. I've got a cheat sheet on how to set the right agenda at the beginning of your call. We'll send you that as a follow-up item. Here's my contact information if you have any follow-up questions, or if you want to talk about any of this further. If you want to talk about getting this kind of a system installed for your company with Startup Hypeman's help, of course, happy to have that conversation as well. Please connect on LinkedIn. I can stick around and answer like the 1 or 2 questions that are still remaining. And it's on the point of view statement, which the main thing there, John, is that company sells a number of different services. Again, it should live beyond the product or the service. So what is your belief about the industry as a whole? And because you have that belief, ultimately you do have a series of products or services that relate to that.
I want to say thank you for everyone who attended today. I'm also happy to hang out and answer any questions. Raj, thank you for being our